Thank you, Judas. Welcome, everybody, to, well, what is going to be the first in hopefully a series of podcasts, of course, called the Smite Night Podcast. And what a lineup of guests we have for our first show. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with what we are Smite Night, and of course, we are an EU-based Conquest league that's growing very rapidly with a podcast, I guess, being the next step in that growth. We are a welcome environment for people of all skill levels and platforms to come and play some Smite. So if you're not already involved in the community, then you should be. Click on the Discord link below and be part of the best Smite community out there. But we're here today to do the podcast. So this is going to be our first episode, and our agenda for the day is going to be as follows. We're going to talk about all things Smite. What we're going to look at first is a little review of Season 8 so far and how each of us think it's gone in terms of the changes to the game, the new gods, the Conquest map, the items. And then we're going to look at the mid-season patch notes. Obviously, they go live, I think, is it next week or the week after? We've just had the PTS server with it, so it's a pretty big change to the game. So I think it'd be interesting to get some high-level players' sort of thoughts on it. Then we're going to go through what we think of our own first season, the Smite Night season, and how our people on the panel think their own seasons have gone and what they're looking forward to in Season 2. We're also going to give you a little few insights into what we're planning for Season 2 and how we're looking to expand. And then we're going to finish off with a little Q&A session at the end. I've already got a few questions sent to me on my own stream earlier on. So let's introduce who we have here with us today and what a panel we've got. So first of all, I'll start with Judas, because of course this is being hosted through his own channel. I think he'll be disappointed if I don't start off with him.
Thank you.
So we have probably the head caster, I think we can safely call him now. The voice, the face of Smite Night, Judas Priestley. Also member of Aheti 2 as of a couple of weeks ago. So look, when he occasionally gets time to play, he will be feeding the mid lane for the opposing team. We have got the captain of the Cobalt esports team, JustAPO. Solo laner, am I right there? Solo laner?
I've moved to mid. Moved to mid.
I was looking at your gods played before, and you had like 5,000 worshippers on Nike, and I was like, yes, that's my kind of guy. And then we've got the fan favourite, the one and only Nathan T, who previously was of Cobalt, previously of Aheti 2, but I believe for Season 2, Nathan, you've got your own team starting up.
Yeah, we're not going to announce anything yet. Maybe a sneak peek later on in the stream, but
Have we got names for it yet? Have we got a name for it yet, Nathan?
Well, we've got one in the works. Potentially could be called Blink and the Winkers. Make of that what you will.
So there, everyone's favourite Nathan, and we've got one guest who's going to be joining us later on. He's just running a little bit late at the moment, but it is the ADC from the team who could clinch the title on Sunday. High-level player, Don Doug himself. But of course, everyone on this panel plays at a high level, otherwise they wouldn't be here. So what we're going to start off with is we are going to look how we think Season 8 has gone and how we think the game has changed. Of course, Smite is now 8 years old. So it's been running a long, long time, and how do we see potentially the future for the game, and what state do we think it's in at the moment? So I'll start with that one because I'm in a bit of a unique position to this. I've played Smite for 5 years. But I predominantly played Arena up until Season 8, and that was purely because I'd never played a MOBA before, and Conquest was this big, scary, awful monster. So for 3 or 4 years, I cut my teeth playing Arena, learning the gods, learning the items. So coming into Season 8, I was coming in to learn Conquest, basically. So my first ever run of Conquest games was in January or December of just gone. So for me, this is my first ever experience of Conquest, so I can't really compare it to any others. But my thoughts on the gods that have been released is, I can't really say without swearing my thoughts on Gilgamesh or Tiamat when she got released, because both of those gods are a pain to deal with. So yeah, I'm kind of new to Conquest, really. I can't really talk about current metas, but I'm sure you guys can. So Judas, as someone who has cast a lot of games, seen a lot of Smite, probably played a lot and seen a lot this season, what are you thinking of Season 8?
Season 8, I think one of the strengths and one of the things that in particular Hi-Rez was going for with it is to really appeal to all Smite players. I think that's one of the things that might not be so obvious. So I played Smite way back in open beta. Wasn't one of the starters on closed, but I did play in the open, and I played for a few years, probably about 4 or 5 years on and off. And I found that Season 8 is the first season to feel more like Season 0, Season 1, Season 2, because what you found was the map was getting smaller, farm was getting a bit more complicated, but because of just the way that the games were working, there was less fighting, it felt like, in certain seasons. As we went by, things were changing. Whereas Season 8 really sort of shot things up, changed everything. You know, the map is huge now, so the time investment is worth it, but the games have actually gotten shorter. You know, a golden experience increase is huge now. It used to be, I've heard a few other guys in the Smite community talk about this. It used to be a really good thing if the mid laner got his Warlock Staff first item finished by 12 minutes. That used to be fast. All right. So nowadays, the game pace has really increased, and I think it's just making things just better everywhere. I think every role feels a lot better these days, and Season 8 as a whole, I think, has been really, really successful.
No, I completely agree with everything you said. I started a bit later. I started like Season 6, only really started playing ranked in Season 7, and then competitive Season 8. Like, I've watched quite a lot of Smite the whole way through, and just think that it comes with any type of esport anyway, where the longer the game's been out, like I'm predominantly Call of Duty. Well, used to be. I'm predominantly Smite now, but it comes with efficiency. People know how to play the game better, and everyone just gets more efficient. So in Smite, everyone's just getting a lot more efficient with farm. And obviously with the changes coming up here mid-season patch, and we're going to get onto that a bit later, everything's just going to be a lot more efficient, and it's going to keep going that way throughout the whole kind of time that Smite's been about. Like, everyone's just going to get better, and everyone's going to get more efficient. Farm's going to get more efficient, and I like kind of all the changes that they made from last season to this season, especially.
You've hit the nail on the head there, really. Honestly, the efficiency thing is so key, and they are making the map bigger. And again, we'll get on to next patch in a moment, but even with the inclusive, the new map starting Season 7, then going into Season 8, like the bigger map. And then one other side of it, which I was going to hit on, was the build paths, and especially from, I suppose, a mid perspective, the build paths are more, I suppose, diverse than I've seen ever before. Normally it's, you have one meta build path, whether that be Warlock Staff based in earlier seasons, or whether it was Book of Thoth that would give you a massive power rush. You started building that, but now you can rush Charon's Coin, you can rush Chronos Pendant, you can rush Penetration at the start of your build. It'll definitely change, especially with the new patch, but they're just opening it up so much, and I find that diversity really interesting for not just current players that play the game a long time, but for new players getting into Smite. Makes it really interesting in terms of what they learn to do and so forth.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Sorry, Apo, you go ahead, mate. You go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. I got my turn.
Sorry. So, yeah, I think diversity is a really important thing for a game like Smite. Obviously, when it's not an annual release or something like Call of Duty or Battlefield that comes out every 1 or 2 years, it's something that is long running, and the core of the game doesn't change. You have to be able to tweak the things either side of it to keep the game fresh. And I think an example of a game that does it really well is something like Fortnite. Now, Fortnite's been going for 4 or 5 years. I don't play it myself, but I can appreciate that they make small changes that keeps the game fresh. And I think the build diversity was something that they really had to work on from the back end of Season 7. I played a couple of games the back of Season 7 in Conquest, but there was one starter item for each class. Everyone was starting the game with the same starter item. A lot of the items that you went into were the same. And when I saw that they were bringing back varied starter items, I was like, yeah, this is really good, because now you aren't always, it's not Warrior's Blessing versus Warrior's Blessing in the solo lane every single time. It's not Guardian's Blessing versus Guardian's Blessing. Although I think the balance probably could do with a slight change, because Bluestone is obviously rocking the solo lane at the moment, and it would be good to see, you're coming up against different starter items. And I think even mid as well. I think there's only 2, isn't there, for mid? So they have increased it a little bit, but I think they just need to tweak it just a touch further, because you don't want predictable build paths. And I think as someone who has I'm a part of a lot of like Reddit groups and Facebook groups where you see people asking questions about Smite, and I think one of the biggest things that you see all the time is like sort of newer and lower level players will just stick to the same build path all the time. They will Google one guide and see how do you build our Kwong and then stick with it every single match. And I think they need to get away from that and come and if diversify the items so there is a different path that you can take every single game. And I think that's how you keep it fresh for existing players as well, because even players like us who play almost every day, how many times do you build the same path on a god because you know it works? So yeah, I think that any changes in that regard between seasons is only going to be a healthy thing for the game. And just to touch upon the future of the game actually as well, when your game is 8 years old, there's always the worry that it's on the decline and it's sort of, maybe on its way out. Something like League of Legends is obviously a different beast, and that's growing all the time. But Smite, I was actually quite surprised. I thought the last World Championships were amazing to watch. And then the player base at the start of Season 8, I think they hit their highest ever player base 8 seasons in. And that, to me, isn't a game that's on its way out. It's a game that maybe people are now starting to notice. Now, of course, I'm sure lockdown helped, where there's more people sat at home playing games. But, it peaked in January, which I think is amazing. And hopefully, with the changes coming in, it's not a game that's on its way out. It's one that's only going to get better. And yeah, what do you guys think about that? Judas, you fire away.
I think what really shows to me is obviously because I played way back when, coming into the league that you guys set up, I was fully expecting it to be long-term players. I spoke to Don Doug a lot, and he seemed like, yeah, he was playing closed open beta and everything. But no, actually, there's been a big influx of players. Like you said, season 4, 5, a lot of you guys, relatively new to it. It's quite surprising for a game to, like you said, it's not on the decline. You can't really say it's shooting up, but like you said, hitting the peak, that is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal for this sort of late stage. And it does let you build confidence in the game when you see in things. So spike of players. It means that when you spend, your freshly earned paycheck on all gems, it means it's worth it because the game's going to be around for a bit longer. But I think even something as small as what you touched on, Kara, that the influx of starter items that they brought in. Now all of a sudden, every role having 3 starter items designated, and then anyone can build those starter items, so you can have a huge amount of choice. Even within season 8, how many times has the meta starter item changed? I remember when season first started, all supports buying Sentinels. Then all of a sudden, Benevolence is the only thing to buy. Now, Benevolence got removed from the game for a bug, so everyone's had to sort of pick something else. But then you've got Bluestone being built on the solo lane, and for Hunters as well. When at first it was Leather Cowl was the only thing you buy, then it was Gilded Arrow. As much as game can get stale if you play it for too long, something like this season has completely freshened everything up. The map's changed. The map changing with every god release as well. I think that's something that even gets overlooked. The vines are about to leave. The map's going to get brighter. I didn't even notice that was the case until I thought, I'm sure this map used to be light. But yeah, it's something that they're doing to really freshen it up. And removing boots, obviously we'll get touch more on that later. Removing boots is the next step in that, because having a whole other item to build changes every build. Every Smite Fire build, rip it up. Gone. Completely irrelevant now because we've got new things happening.
Exactly, and Smite have always done that well ever since I've played and ever since I've kind of followed Smite. It is all about keeping it fresh, like when I started playing, as I said, I played casually, wasn't very good. Like I remember the Portal Demon, and then they changed it to the Pyromancer, and they're adding this new thing in mid-season, the Dragger. So they're keeping things fresh. Obviously, with starter items, you have all that different diversity, changing from lessons from last season. Fresh, and I think Smite do a really good job of that. And as Kara said, like, player base is growing. It might be slightly growing, but it's growing. Any growth's good. And it's just trying to kick the game onto that next level. The likes of League's on. Obviously, League's a different beast, but. So that Smite has all the potential in the world to be as big of an esport as of the big MOBAs. So it is all about keeping it fresh and keeping it moving forward. And like the skins and everything like that in the game as well. When you look at that, you look at skins in Dota or League, like yeah, they're cool, but they're nowhere near as cool as Smite. Like they aren't doing what's the new battle pass coming out with all Stranger Things. Stranger Things, like there's no other MOBA doing things like that, and that's just what's kind of making Smite stand out and growing the player base at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I'm glad someone's pointed that out. I've got the comments on live, so I can see a great point raised by Meaty Man Long in regards to the partnerships and what they're doing. They're ahead of the game in that respect, honestly. And I look at my childhood and like Avatar, and you know, it's sort of out of this world, that those two worlds, my gaming world and this game that I've played for 5-6 years, and then TV that I used to watch, you know, those two have now combined, and combined really well. You know, I'd hate to admit the amount of money that I've spent on skins, but you know, they're succeeding commercially. And even with the esports as well, and like the apparel and stuff like that. You know, I know that that's been doing really well, and how Smite have branched their competitive out. The point that I was going to raise is that I think Smite know when something's good for the game and good for the game long term. And something I cast my mind back to, I don't know whether it was season 4 or season 5, you had these potions which you could get, and you could get combat blink, and you could teleport to a random teammate on the map. And it was incredible. It changed the game, but it was horrendously toxic. It was not good for competitive, and it just wasn't good for the game long term. And they removed it. And you know, it's just a prime example of Smite, you know, knowing what's good long term, what's good for the game, what's good for the growth of the game. So no, nothing negative to say about that. It's all positive.
Yeah, I think
exactly. They always do a good job, like don't they, at keeping everything fresh and clean, and that's why we love it. And all we need next a Smite Night skin, isn't it? Who are we getting?
Well,
what skin are we getting for a Smite Night skin?
I just want them to just go all out and give me the Smite Marvel crossover. I want to play Wolverine Bakasora. I want to play Cyclops Ra. I want to play Cucullin Hulk. Stop messing around, Hi-Rez. Get involved with Marvel.
Wolverine Baka. I thought that would have been a Fenrir skin.
Maybe Fenrir. Maybe.
Yeah, Wolverine doesn't grow and pick someone up in his mouth, though. Come on. Whereas although then again, Wolverine doesn't spew up little babies as well. So I don't know. I don't know when it comes to that.
Yeah, last thing I wanted to mention about like the way they balance the game is any community, any gaming community. This isn't just Smite. This is every gaming community. We've all played games long enough. We've all been part of, you know, Gears of War, Halo, you know, whatever communities. Most people will just sit and complain and go, "This is rubbish." But if you just take a step back and look at, you know, a game that's been going 8 years, got 100 and something gods, I think they've done an incredible job of balancing the gods. If you take the very best god in the game and the very worst god in the game, I tell you, I don't think there's too much of a difference in terms of what they can do. I don't think there's many gods. You know, you think you've got 100 and something gods who you'd think they're genuinely not viable at any. I'm not talking about pro level. Of course, pros are a different breed. I'm talking about the common player. Who would you say is the worst? Maybe Upwatch at the moment, but I've played games recently where Upwatch has done well. I think they do a really good job of balancing it in that regard. And what I love is when there's a small change to the game that gets made, and sitting down and going. I usually do this with Brushy when there's a patch, and we go, right, how does this fundamentally change the game? And when the first season come out, when season 8 first started, and there was all these Death's Toll and Mannequin Scepter and all these basic attack gods were like rising to the forefront, and it's like, oh god, Bellona, Osiris are absolutely going to tear it up. And it's like, but who does this inadvertently buff? And it's like Shaq, because he's got an attack speed slow built in. And I love those tiny little, it's like an ecosystem, isn't it? Just the tiniest change can bring one god right to the front and push someone right to the back. And that's what I'm looking forward to with season 8, is in the mid-season patches. Who is now, people may not take time to realize it, but who is now going to fall away and who is going to jump to the front of like the meta gods?
I have an opinion on that straight away. Like I've been saying this since, well, obviously the last patch that when the nerfed Earl where there was no block stacks, I was always like Daji's going to be the best jungler in the game. We've seen quite a lot of that in SPL. We actually seen quite a lot of it in Smite Night. But I think with this next patch, they've did quite a lot of buffs to kind of allow auto attackers to be better in the game, where the Berserkers now better, Shoguns is now better, so the auto attack solo laners. So I think we're going to see the rise of Amaterasu again, and we're going to see the likes of in SPL. We're going to see Nika running people down on Ama again, and I'm so excited for it because that's my favorite character in the game. I love Ama. It's so much fun to play. So I might even have to go back in solo lane just so I can slam Ama every single game.
Do it in mid.
It's just so fun. I'd try it. I don't think my team would be too happy.
Yeah, I think I really love how there's this effect, and I've noticed it from the back end of season 7. Is it's the pro effect. A god will inadvertently rise through the meta just because a pro's done well with them, like Scylla, Janus from the last World Championship.
Chiron
Yeah.
recently.
Scylla was
Falcon at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Scylla was a mid-tier pick at the end of season 7. Fast forward to the World, Paul, unbelievable. All of a sudden, season 8, Scylla's top pick. And then you get things like FineOK doing something on stream. He goes, "Oh, I'm going to build attack speed, I don't know, Geb." And then everyone's like, "Right, this is it. This is the play." And I love how that those mad little things that happen in the pro scene filter down into your actual games. And it's so funny because it's so consistent. I notice it when you play ranked. People ban gods, and you think you've only banned that because FineOK played it the other day. There's such a cause and effect of it, man. It makes me laugh. So
Why
much.
is Set still banned? I've got to ask. Set is banned out in every ranked game, every league game that we play. I have never seen anyone play Set, and even when Set gets picked up in the SPL, it never actually goes ham. So I'm just saying. There's other bans right now. I think Set is just sort of this nightmare fuel for people. People are terrified of Set right now.
Absolutely.
It's just
scared.
You're so scared of Set that you can't possibly risk him coming through. But I don't even know if many people play Set right now.
Just playing against it. I mean, it's banned every game in scrims, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly. But the thing is with Set, he's such a pub stompy. Like he's so good in ranked, and at a pro level, it's hard to play that. Like I think the best player, especially this season, like if you're watching SPL, has been Johnny, where he plays that kind of like pub stompy. I'm gonna just hard carry from jungle, gank every lane, get all the kills. Like that's that type of god, and that doesn't work at a pro level. And Smite Night, we're not at a pro level. Let's be real, not yet anyway. And yeah, so people are just scared of pub stompy style and someone just running about on set and getting 22 kills, and imagine how embarrassing that would be on stream, Judas streaming it, and there's a jungler running about with 22 kills on set because he's just so pub stompy, he's so hard to lock down, he's so hard to kill.
Just
he's
imagine,
just not fun to play against.
Just imagine playing a game and having Nathan T on Zeus get 16 kills. I've seen it happen. So 19. Bloody hell, that's even worse. So, I mean, these things, like you said, Apo. These bans are sort of it's trickled down. It's trickled down from the best you see in ranked or the pro league, whatever, and it has trickled all the way down to the league. And I think it's really, really cool. Yet Max pointing out Draconic Ace going 16-0 and Daji as well. It's like these things can happen on other gods. So I'm not sure the Set ban's there, but like you guys are saying, it's just so it's so risky to let something like that go through.
Yeah, I think if anyone, I don't know if it was the same for you guys. I played a bit of ranked at the end of season 7, and every single game Susano banned out, and it got to the point when I was thinking, I can't remember the last time I played against a Susano, and I thought season 8's going to come along, and it started. He doesn't even get picked or banned. It's like he's ignored. I don't think I've seen a Susano in the last 3 weeks. Nothing's changed with him, so why is he now not banned? But in season 7, he was. Did something happen in the pro league that made him insta-ban? It's mad, and I think the same will happen with Set. One day there'll be another god who needs to be banned out. People will stop banning Set, and then it's like, why did we why were we banning set all the time? I don't know. It's just weird, and it's the pro effect. It filters down, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, and as a whole as well, going back to your original sort of topic of conversation around, there's not much difference between the top and the bottom. The Smite team, firstly, are so good at analyzing statistics, not just from a comp level, but filtering down all the way into, your casual arena games and even ranked at all levels. I know they look at the statistics treated as, you've got bronze players, you've got silver players, and there are win percentages for higher skill cap gods that are higher at the top end and lower at the bottom end, and then they don't, nerf them because they're harder to play at the bottom end. And for someone who's played, I haven't played as long as Judas, but I can remember gods like Zhong Kui being a top ban, who in a comp stage now he gets picked, but he has no wins in eight appearances. I think if I'm wrong, please do correct me. But Zhong Kui, and I think wasn't necessarily a direct change with him back then. It was more a case of, solo laner items aren't too great. Lifesteal items such as Bancross are alright. So it was more of a Hades and Zhong Kui meta in the solo lane. And yeah, things like that. I mean, Zhong Kui, no escape. It just really amazes me that, the variety of gods throughout the time that I've been playing it anyway.
Yeah.
I saw recently there was they did a list of like the win percentages of like the top god and the bottom god, who's got the highest win percentage and who's got the lowest. And the highest was something like 55% and the lowest was like 45%. And I think a 10% difference, that's pretty good balancing to have just a 10% difference between the top and the bottom. I think if you went to something like Overwatch and said who's got the highest win rate in Overwatch, I'm guessing early in season 1 and 2 would have been someone like Mercy, and then look at the lowest, maybe would have been someone, I don't know, who was weak in season 1, like Zenyatta or something. It definitely would be higher than 45 and 55, definitely. I think we'd be seeing a huge difference there. So I think they've done a pretty good job of balancing the gods in that regard.
Yeah, they're attentive to everyone, aren't they? And even on a pro standpoint, I see Gormizer all the time. I love following Gormizer on Twitter, by the way, because he just brings these stats out of nowhere, which no one else looks at. And he's promoting every god being picked by the end of phase 1, or every god being picked by the end of the season. And the fact that there's even a possibility when there's, I don't know how many gods there are on the game, to be honest, but I'm looking at over 110 now, isn't there? It is unfathomable, really. They pay a lot of attention to every god all the time with all changes. It's really impressive.
Hey, I'm Caragold, whose voice you've just listened to for 20 minutes. When we recorded this first episode of the Smite Night podcast, we didn't expect it to be 2 hours long. So we've cut it into multiple episodes, the first of which ends here. Thanks very much for listening, and stay tuned for episode 2.